All right, we are gonna get serious about storing some of our garden produce that we've harvested this fall. We've got a whole bunch of different things, so we're gonna just make a video storing everything, and hopefully you enjoy seeing the different processes for the different things. So we've got our potatoes down here, we've got carrots, we've got storage apples, we've got out in the garage that we need to get in and stored. We have squash, onions, let's see, beets, and I don't know, lots of different varieties of squash. But so we're gonna start working on those today and get them stored to their permanent locations. With the potatoes, we're gonna start with those and get those kind of up out of the way. For the big ones, we've got mesh bags. They're the nice big, like 50-pound bag size. So we'll get the big potatoes in here. Small potatoes, we're gonna put in the box so that we kind of have those separated. We use the small potatoes for different things than we use the big potatoes, and they don't stay good quite as long as the big potatoes will. So that's how we're going to divide those up. We'll go ahead and get started with that, then we'll show you our carrots. One thing about the potatoes before we get to work here is they've been sitting here on the ground. We put them there probably about 3 weeks ago. You can do it just for a week, but we have been busy, right, Lincoln?
Yep, with wrestling and everything.
Wrestling and lots of other stuff that the kids have been doing lately. So anyways, you do want to cure the skins before you store them. That's why they're laid out in a single layer on the floor there. They've cured long enough. Good, those skins are good and hard. Now it's time to get them stored to their permanent location. All right, do you want to do big potatoes or small potatoes?
I'll do small ones.
Okay.
You just put the big ones in there? What if they mold?
They shouldn't. All right, so we got those two nice big bags of the big potatoes. You'll see there were potatoes like this that we found that had holes in them. You don't want to store those. You can eat them if you want to, just do it sooner than later before they go bad. That one had a split in it. The red potato just had, I'm not sure what that is. It's like a weird kind of growth on the skin. Anyways, there's a split on there too, so just don't want to store bad potatoes with the good ones. Otherwise, you'll end up getting a whole bunch of bad potatoes. Okay, Lincoln is still working on boxing up the small potatoes, but what we've got is in the box that he's putting them in, down there. These are actually apple boxes that we got from our local grocery store. And all we did is we went in and we said, hey, do you have any boxes with dividers in it? And they're throwing away boxes all the time. We got some when we were moving as well. We just went into the grocery store and said, hey, we're moving, do you have any boxes? They gave us, truckloads of boxes, but these ones were nice because they have these dividers. They're made for apples. So when they get the apples, off the truck, they come in boxes and they're just individually compartmentalized here to keep them from going bad and to keep them from getting smashed and mushed and those kind of things. We've liked using these for our potatoes because it kind of keeps them separated a little bit. That way if one goes bad, it's not going to affect the rest of them. And it kind of keeps them in nice layers. So anyways, that's what we're doing with the small potatoes. Okay, I'll show you what we did with our storage carrots. We dug these before it got too cold. Honestly, I probably could have left them in the ground for another week or two. We thought that it was getting down into the low 20s. That was what one of the forecasts was showing. It ended up not getting that cold. It only got into the high 20s, and carrots, we've still got some out in the garden that are doing just fine. I should have left these, but I didn't want to risk it, I guess. So anyways, I dug the carrots. And same thing as potatoes, you want to cure them a little bit, and you want to make sure that there aren't any bad ones that you're putting in. These are called finger carrots. and I've really liked these. They're super flavorful. They're not as big as the other carrots that you get, but nice and flavorful, and honestly kind of a nice size just for eating fresh and things like that. So what we did with these is I put down a layer of, I'm going to say moist, but really not wet at all, like barely moist. This is shredded paper. I don't want wet, otherwise it's going to rot the carrots, but I do want a little bit like barely moist because that's going to keep your carrots crisp and not let them get kind of soggy and soft on you. So anyways, a layer of the shredded paper, then a layer of carrots, a layer of shredded paper, kind of like lasagna, right? So we're doing the layers. And then a nice layer on top to kind of preserve those. We want to keep them out of the light and keep them covered. If I think of it, I can come add just a teeny tiny bit of water through the winter just to keep them crisp. But again, not too much. You got to be careful. As we're ready to eat these, we'll just come dig through it, pull them out, and eat them. We didn't clean these, underwater or anything like that. We just basically ripped the tops off and put them in. So that's how we do carrots. Pretty easy. Okay, now for our storage apples. These are a specific variety that are meant to be stored. We wait to pick them until after a really good hard frost. I don't want to get below probably about 28 degrees. Below 28 degrees might start kind of killing the apples off and freeze them. I don't want them frozen, but I want, a pretty good hard freeze because that's what forces all the sugars out of the tree and into the apples. So we waited until a good hard frost, good hard freeze, and then we picked them and stored them. At some point, I still need to go through all of these and make sure that there aren't any, mushy ones or ones with a wormhole or things like that. We tried to do our best as we put them in, but we were kind of in a hurry. So I do want to come back and make sure there aren't any Mars on them or things like that that are going to make the whole box go bad. If you're wondering, these are styrofoam boxes that my father-in-law picked up where he worked at the local hospital. They get shipments and things that needed to be kept at a certain temperature. So they got lots of shipments in these in these styrofoam boxes. So as they'd throw them out, he'd just bring some home sometimes, and that's what these are. So these apples, they're really nice size apples, as you can see. But these will stay good for a few months. We ate on some one year until probably late February, and they were softer at that point. Not so soft that they were gross, like they weren't rotten, they get soft over time. Right now they're nice and crisp and super tasty and sugary. So anyways, we'll keep these stored. We've got about 2.5 boxes of these. I did put one small box in my mother-in-law's root cellar. I'm curious to see how those store compared to these ones that are in my basement. So they're still going to be nice and cool, and they'll be kept away from a whole lot of light, things like that. But I don't know, I wanted to compare and see if these ones in the basement do any better than the ones in the root cellar or vice versa, so that we can store more the way that they do better. Anyways, that's how we store our storage apples. Okay, now we're on to the beets. So all I'm going to do is take one, cut off the greens, probably an inch or two above the root. I can save these beet greens. We did a video on how to save those a couple months ago, I think. So if you're interested in that process, you can watch that. So now I'm just going to put it down in a really big styrofoam box that we've got, just like the apple ones, are similar but bigger. And we'll store that either in the root cellar, or we may take it down into the basement, just like the potatoes and those kind of things. I haven't decided yet. Some of these giant beets have gotten pretty huge. Those ones, we may end up cooking them if we decide to, but honestly, we may just save those ones that are really big and keep them till spring, and then we'll replant them, and they'll grow up and go to seed in their second year. So very similar to radishes. Well, carrots are probably more similar. They're a 2-year crop, meaning it takes 2 years to get to that full maturity of producing a seed. Radishes technically only takes 1 year to get seeds. We do have some of those. We'll probably show that, saving the radish seeds and saving our green bean seeds in a separate video. Anyways, so we replant those and we'll get some seeds out of them for the following year. Alright, so beets are all done. We didn't have as many left as I thought we did. I probably could have done that in a smaller storage box, but oh well. They looked like more with all those beet greens. I think we'll probably just feed the greens to the pigs actually this time. Pigs or rabbits or chickens, they all like them. We've got quite a few stored already, so we'll probably not use these beet greens. Alright, squash is next. Okay, the sun's in my eyes, but now we're gonna start working on these squash. Really all I'm gonna do with them is haul them down into the basement and we'll store them down there. Squash want to be a little bit warmer than like your potatoes and carrots and beets and things like that. So ideally we would have them in a different spot than the potatoes and beets and carrots and things like that because they like it a little bit warmer. But honestly, I don't really have another good spot this year. So I'm gonna put them in the cold room just like the other stuff, and it'll just be what it is. So they probably won't last as long as they could have otherwise, but it'll still be pretty good. And honestly, the ones that we don't get to eating, we're gonna throw to the pigs during the winter anyway, so that they have a little bit of extra nutrient value and something other than just their milled grain. So anyways, we're gonna start hauling these downstairs.
This one's mine. This is normal.
Okay, while the rest of us keep hauling the squash down into the basement, I'm gonna have Lincoln start braiding the greens of the onions together so that we can just come along and cut off a chunk of the onion, or not a chunk, but cut off one onion out of the braided rope of onions. All right. Oh, and one other thing about onions, you don't want to store those with your potatoes because they emit I don't know, what do you call it? A gas, I guess. They emit a gas that accelerates the ripening for potatoes. So your potatoes will actually rot if you store onions next to them. So don't store those together. I also forgot about our pumpkins. We've got these just kind of sitting inside the patio door for right now. We just wanted them in kind of a warmer spot so they'd ripen a little faster. Besides decorations for Halloween and fall, we want to use these sweet pie pumpkins for making some pie filling and canning that this year. So anyways, we've got those in here as well, but ultimately we'll get those stored until we make the pie filling out of them. All right, that kind of does it for our fall storage for right now, at least. We've got a few more things like seed harvesting and those kind of things that need to happen, but we'll video that when it comes. You can see over here all the stuff we canned this year. Pretty awesome. What are you two turkeys doing?
Looking at the sky and laying on the grass.
Why are you laying on the grass?
Because it's so comfy. It's nice to finally have grass.
It is nice to finally have grass. You're right.
Yeah. I want to have it always with me.
It's the first day we've allowed them on the grass. We figure it's been several days, so it's probably settled enough that it's not gonna get bumpy and squished in.
It's fun at new grass. Yeah.
What's fun about it?
It's new. Yeah, we just got it. It's so fun to play with it. It's cold.
It's cold.
And I like to lay on it because it's comfortable, especially when it's cold.
You kids are funny.
No.